is a drive in the 2014 Dodge Challenger RT with a 5.7 liter V8 and a 6-speed manual. This area has a lot of bad drivers. You'll see kind of a lot of bad driving as I go. A lot of people cutting you off, a lot of people driving too slow. Anyway, you'll notice I have the windows down now, and the sound is really good. That's one of the really good things about this car, is it sounds amazing. I really think the Camaro doesn't sound like has zero sound at all. It sounds like a 70s Cadillac, but this car has a good sound to it. I think the Mustang might be slightly better, but in terms of the driving, the things to watch out for are the stick shift. If you really like stick shift, it's okay. It shifts pretty well. It shifts pretty fast, actually. It just doesn't. It's just a little bit of a pain in traffic, obviously. And if you live in sort of an area like this where there's bad and slow drivers, then you run into problems. It's just kind of annoying sometimes, when you're driving it. It doesn't. The car doesn't have a ton of power. It's all right. It's kind of. To me, it's kind of just average power for what it should be. I think they need another 50 or 70 horsepower in the car to make it, more fun. If you're on a highway and you need to pass, you're going like 60ish, you can drop it down to 4th. The pass is all right. It's not over the top. It's not Camaro type of power. Camaro has a ton more power. You can really tell the difference. So if you like more of a power type of thing, you either want to go with the stepped up version of this, like the 392 or a Camaro. There's a lot of lights here, so you can kind of see what a pain in the stick kind of can be in an area like this. Like I said, horrific drivers. This is the worst group of drivers I've ever run across. I'm from a different state originally, and so that's it's kind of tough that way, because you're always having to downshift and having to slam on your brakes a lot, because you have a lot of people that pull out from these shopping centers and things. So anyway, in terms of the car, you have some of the good things are you have plenty of room in the car. It's not it's big so that it rides well in the snow. So that's a good thing too. It's one of the best snow cars I've had. Gas mileage is really good for the engine. Surprisingly, it gets better gas mileage than a lot of my older cars, my V6s. I had a Honda last time. It gets a lot better gas mileage than the Honda did. So it does really well in gas mileage. The places where it really fails, where it's really bad, is in terms of the driving. You got to use a little more, a decent amount more power. It also the steering is really, really soft, and it doesn't get any better as you speed up. So it doesn't have that sort of speed-sensitive steering. So if you're going, 60, 70 miles an hour, it feels kind of floaty and a little out of control. If you just let off the steering wheel, it'll kind of steer one way or another. It'll kind of just steer off on you. So you kind of have to be. I'm going to close the windows now. Just wanted to give you some of the sound of the car. I turned on the air with it, closed the windows. So it really, the biggest problem I think is just really the handling in terms of straight line. It just feels like the car is always sort of a little out of your control, and you really can't feel the road at all. The road just isn't there. I put 20s on this and lower profile tires, and it was a little bit worse. It wasn't really any better. It has a lot of side-to-side sway. When you hit bumps, it just sways a lot. It absorbs bumps really well. It just tends to sway all over the place, so it feels like it's a little out of control in terms of the driving. So if you want more of a luxurious sort of soft, floaty sort of ride, this is a good car for that. It's also a little tough when you're shifting gears, because it's so floaty and it's so bouncy that sometimes it just has a weird feel when you're working through the gears. Another thing is if I stop quick, it tends to it doesn't stop straight. It tends to bounce. You can see the car sort of lurches back and forth when I stop. It's weird. It doesn't stop like level like all the other cars these days. It kind of bounces back and forth a couple times. It kind of looks kind of weird. It's so heavy that it has to kind of bounce a little bit. So that's another issue, you know, that they could fix. I don't know if it's the tires or just the sheer weight or the suspension is soft or what it is, but those are big things with the 2014 RT. I don't know why they call it an RT, because it's definitely, the suspension is not, it's not a sporty even really, it's not even really a capable suspension. It's just so soft that it's kind of depressing. You know, if I were to get this car used, I'd get like the SRT or something that is a little upgraded in terms of suspension and handling, and get real super summer low profile, high performance tires, and maybe that will work. Maybe a strut power brace. I'm probably going to try to get one of those. That might help. I don't know. It's just really bad in this car, but you know, the straight line. In terms of like passing and quick movements, it's actually not that bad. You can't feel the road, but it does respond to your steering input, so it's actually not too bad in those ways. It did seem to loosen up a little bit after I had it for a year or so. In the beginning, it seemed to be a little tighter on the road than it is now, so maybe it's just kind of the way it wears as well. The other few things about the driving impressions, the air doesn't really make too much of a difference on the power you get. It's nice that way. It's got a decent amount, a little bit of low end torque. It's okay. It's just, again, it's not much better than any other sort of 6-cylinder car you're going to get today in terms of power. Yeah, that's, you know, if you turn off the traction control, you get a little bit more power. If you keep the traction control on, sometimes it kind of takes over on the dry road, and it kind of makes it a little slower. If you drive on a wet road, if it's just a little bit wet, that's the worst case. It does spin a lot on that type of surface, but it's controllable. You know, it usually just spins, kind of stops. If you really gun it, sometimes it'll kind of go in a circle, but it's pretty controllable. Again, it's really great in the snow. It's controllable in the snow. I spun out a little bit in the snow, and I always am able to recover real easily. It's just so incredibly heavy that it works. It works real well in the snow, probably better than most sports. So here's where you see sort of the bounce of the car when I'm stopping. You see it bounce back and forth a few times. It's like 3 or 4 times it goes up, you know, forward, back, and it kind of looks bad. It's just kind of real bouncy. It's kind of like 70s-ish, I guess. You know, I don't really remember having a car that does that. Maybe I really can't. It's just really strange. It's a real strange feeling. So it's sort of bouncy like that when you're shifting gears too. So sometimes it's hard to get a gear because it's bouncing all over. It's, you know. So I guess if you were going to look at the Challenger or a used Challenger, definitely you could go with the RT. You just have to probably put some new suspension on it, and some sway bars, just something to really stiffen it up. If you know, otherwise you go for something higher end. I'd probably go for the 2015. I believe, from what I've seen in the reviews, you can change the settings on the 2015s to be more sporty. Like you could change the feel of the wheel to be heavier and that type of thing.